This is the demo of TeamSpark MCP ToolVault. I'm going to start out at a very high level and just kind of tool through the menu items just to give you an idea of what the core concepts are, and then we'll come back in a little more detail and show you how each of them work. So first of all, we have a dashboard. The general idea here is just sort of to give you a quick overview of what's going on in the system. We have a list of servers, so these are all your MCP servers that you have installed. We have a list of your clients. So when you first start, you don't have to set up any clients. You can just do this without client tokens and just start running this and accessing these servers. But if you want to be able to authenticate individual clients and you want the communication, the authorization to be secure, then we can set up individual clients. And then you'll also be able to track the policy application and the messages by client. We have a set of policies. So policies are essentially sets of kind of rules that have filters attached to them that are looking for various kinds of information and then taking various actions on those pieces of information. We have messages. So this is going to be all the messages that are flowing back and forth between the LLMs or agents and the tools. We have alerts. So this is anytime a policy criteria is met, it will create an alert for that policy that will tell you what happened. We have a set of settings, pretty basic, just your host settings and some simple application settings. We have an API documentation test server, and then sort of a help and support section. So let's go back to the dashboard. So here we have, at the top, we have the new policy alert. So if there aren't any new policy alerts, this section won't be here. But if there are, you'll see the alert by severity. We see our gateway host. So we see our gateway host is running SSE on port 4000. It's currently running. We can start and stop it. We can see how many servers we have. We have 4 active, 1 disabled, 4 clients, 9 policies. We can see that we have active message flows. The basic point of this is just so you can see that, yes, there are messages flowing, and we have alerts. So you can also see, yes, there are things getting alerted. So it just gives you just a very high level detail. And the idea from here is that you'll then go drill into whatever individual thing that you wanted to get more information about. So let's first look at the servers. So we can see the list of servers, the server info that we got when we queried the server, when we pinged it. We have a security column. So the security options are essentially container, which means that it's containerized. We have network, which means it's running over the network. We have run in container, which means that you've told us that you want us to run your UVX or NPX server in a container, and we've done that for you. And then we have unknown, which is sort of the scary one. So in a perfect world, you want these all to be blue and everything to be either running in a container or over a network where you're comfortable with the security of what's on the other side of the network. Let's go look at one of these in some more detail. So we can see we have this everything server. It's enabled. It's a standard IO server running MPX, and then we can see all the details. So this is what we got from the server itself. Last seen shows us the last time we've seen a message. So this shows you some sort of recency activity of that server. Standard IO, MPX, here's some args, environment variables, and security. And if we wanted to, for example, let's say this is unknown security, it's NPX. So we can go in here, hit run in container, save, and now this is running in a container. So like I said, super simple, 90% of the benefit of what you're going to get out of much more advanced security solutions is just running this in a container by clicking one button. I can go in and look at tools. So I'm looking at the everything. So I can see I've got pretty sophisticated tool testing operation environment here. Let's see if I want to echo something. Let's say hello. And I got it back, response back. So I can actually go in and test all my tools, see how they're working, how the service is configured. I also have all the messages and all the alerts that are related to this particular server, just as a kind of a quick way to pivot into those things. You can also see them obviously you can filter them at a higher level. And I can ping the server. So just to verify that it's working. So pretty basic. I can view it as JSON if I want. I can view the server configuration as JSON since it's a kind of a common way of interacting. And actually, when you're editing, you can also edit as JSON if you'd rather do that. So you can cut and paste the JSON in there instead of editing it, with the fields. So let's go look at clients now. So for each client, we have sort of the type, description, same kind of a thing. We can see the messages and alerts from that client. We have a token. That's a value that will be used to configure that client, identify it and authorize it. We have the configuration path so that we can update the tool configuration, whether it's auto update, last time it's updated, ability to update it right now, and then the set of tools or servers that client's going to have access to. So let's actually do this. We'll do a little test of, we have TeamSpark AI Workbench. I could do this with any LLM agent tool. I happen to have good testing tools in TeamSpark AI Workbench, so we'll just do that. But this would work fine in Cursor or any other tool. So let's go get this token. And let's go into, this is TeamSpark AI Workbench, and we're going to add a server. So we're going to go in here, and so let's add everything. It's going to be a standard IO, TSH, which is our shim. It's going to take 2 parameters, the server that it wants access to, and that token. So let's save that. And now you can see that we have this server. So the server's installed and I can see all the tools. So it means it actually connected through the gateway to the server that's running in the ToolVault. I can ping it, 13 milliseconds. Let me go test something. So let's try something else. Let's test echo, but let's give it some more fun data. So let's give it a fake Amex number. So what you see when I tested it is it sent the message Amex, and instead of getting back Amex with that number, it got back Amex redacted. So it actually went through and applied a policy to redact the Amex number. And this is happening through a third-party agent. I mean, it happens to be my own tool, but like I said, this is exactly what you would do to configure and use any other agent. Super simple configuration. So let's go back here. And one thing I can do is, let's go back here. If I go to alerts, I should be able to see this alert right here, this message that just came in. And if I click on it, I can see there's my American Express. And this is sort of interesting because you might say, well, okay, so the echo send it to and from the server. So how do I know if I got redacted on the way to the server or on the way back? So here we can actually see that. We can see that we have an American Express filter. That's what it matched. It redacted it in the params sent by the client to the server. The server got that and responded with the same redacted text. So we can sort of see not only that it got applied, but like where in the process it got applied. Okay, let's go into policies. So I'll just pop into a few of these just as an example. So we have cloud account secrets, which is looking for AWS access keys, secret keys, Google API, cloud keys, generalized secrets, so JWT tokens, private keys, prefix secrets, bearer tokens, GitHub secrets, LLM API keys, so Anthropic, OpenAPI, Hugging Face, etc. So just to give you an idea of the kinds of things we have. And I'll go through just a little bit of an example. Let's look at credit card numbers. So the way these policies work is they have a name, a description, they have a severity level, they have an origin, which means that you can look at only messages that originate at the agent or only messages that originate at the server if you want. Generally, you're going to look at both directions. You can also limit them to only certain methods. So this one only applies to tool calls, but you can have it apply to everything or specific methods. The action it's going to take, in this case, it's going to redact with this phrase redacted in all caps and bracket and square brackets. And then you have a set of filters. So what a filter is, it's got a name and a description. It has a regular expression. The regular expression is sort of the driver of this. The regular expression has to match in order for anything else to matter. But if the regular expression does match, then a couple of other things can happen. If there's a validator specified, that's a function in our code. The validator will also be called. So in the case of credit cards, we have a bunch of patterns that deal with like the length and the opening digit combinations and a bunch of other things that are reasonably decent. But you're going to catch a lot of stray 13 to 16 digit numbers if you do this. But there's a validation called Lewin validation, which is a checksum based validation that all credit card numbers use. So we can apply that on top of this, and that cuts the false positives to almost zero. It's pretty effective. So in this case, we're going to say, hey, you want to know if we're matching these credit cards, we're going to match the regex. If the reject matches, we're going to call the validator. If that matches, then it's probably a credit card, and we're going to flag it. And we're going to flag which filter actually applied. So we're going to say, hey, it was a Visa or it was a MasterCard or whatever. We'll go into one other example of PII. And that is that we have some things like social security numbers that are pretty hard to identify just based on the content, because it could just be any 9-digit number, it could have separators or not separators. So we have another concept in our filters called keyword. So a keyword is basically going to be a whole word match that has to occur within a context window around the regex match. So if we find something that looks like a social security number, we're going to look around that. It happens to be about 100 characters. We're going to look about 100 characters before or after that match to see if any of these phrases occur, any of these keywords occur. And if they do, we're going to consider that to be a match. And you can use those in combination. So you can basically have validators and keywords. But the regex has to match first, and then the validator or the keyword is going to be further qualification on that. So let's go look at messages. So messages is essentially where we can see all the messages that have gone through this gateway and however long you have message retention set up for. So we can switch the time period for the charting. So let's go to 30 days. We can also filter, well, actually before that. So we can see the basic, we have the server, the method, the tool, if there is one. None of these are tool calls. The client, whether there was an alert on that message, and then the timestamp. But I can also filter all these things. So I can filter on what server, on what method, what tools, clients, source IPs, or session ID if I want to really drill into it. So let's just filter on tool calls because that'll make it a little bit cleaner. So tool calls, you can see the graphs updated, and now all of these are actually tool calls. So let's just click into a tool call message. So this is one that doesn't have any policies applied, just a basic message. So what we can see is the client was ToolVault, the server was everything. This little arrow indicates that it was a message sent from the client to the server and the server responded. There are notification messages where they only go one direction or the other direction. So that arrow sort of tells you whether to expect to see params and results. And we can see the method, the basic information about it, the time, and then we can also see the payload. So we can see the params that were sent by the client and delivered to the server, and the results sent by the server delivered to the client. So very just sort of basic message inspection. And as I said, so you're going to have like things like notification messages. So a notification message like that is going from the server to the client. And then you'll have notification messages during protocol negotiation that go from client to the server. So it's sort of easy to understand the flow of all that. All right, let's go into alerts where it gets sort of fun. Again, we can sort of toggle the time frame, and we'll have these new policy alerts. This only shows up if there are already new policy alerts. Then I've got my alerts by date and policy type, and then by severity. And similarly, I can filter on policy, on filter, on severity, status, server, and client. So I can sort of drill in any way that I want. So let's say if I just wanted to filter on, so I want to look at the criticals, so I can see there's a bunch of criticals, what servers they came through, and there they all are. Let's clear those. And then let's go look at this. This is a good sample one. So let's start out with this. So we see in the message, so this is from cursor to everything, and I triggered 3 alerts on this one message. This is a little bit of an extreme example, but so I've got the param sent by the client, and I have something that looks like a phone number, which I redacted, and I have something that looks like a social security number, which I also redacted. And then if we look at the response, I have this Visa one, and I can see I have a Visa number there, and I redacted the Visa number. So in each one of these, I can see that, okay, this is a severity 2. It was credit card numbers. It matched the Visa. The action was to redact, and there was one match in this payload somewhere. Now let's try another kind of, well, this is not a, nope, that's not what I wanted. So I can load more. All right, I have a specific one I want to find, so let me just go look for it. All right, so this one I have 2 things. I have a UUID pattern, which is that one, and I have a private IP address. So private IP address is low, and the UUID is info, which means it's maybe not even alert at all, just something you want to sort of keep track of. And when you go look at what happens in the output, you can see that on the internal network details, I redacted that, and that looks specifically for things that meet the RFC definition of internal network addresses. But for the UUID pattern, I didn't redact it. So you can see, okay, this is what I identified, and it made its way through in the payload because I didn't think it was necessarily a big deal. So let's go through. We have OpenAPI documentation for the API server that you can actually run and test here. So let's say I wanted to let's just test something really simple, like list the servers. I can try that out, and I can get a list of servers. So pretty straightforward, but basically everything that you've seen demonstrated in the UX is done through the API. So the API does everything you've seen, and the API actually does a significant amount of things that aren't in the UX. There's a lot more analytics and dimensionality and other support in the API that isn't exposed in the UX. So you can pretty much do anything, populate any of this data, interact with it, do analytics on it, all through the API if you want to. Pretty straightforward. And again, help is just sort of help, pretty basic help. I imagine most of that help will be on the internet, but we'll build a little bit into it. So anyway, hopefully that is interesting to you and gives you the idea of what we're going to be able to do, the ability to easily set up these servers, manage them in one place, see all the message going back and forth, set up policy alerts, and secure the communication between your agents and your MCP servers. So hopefully that's interesting. If it is, give me a like and follow or reach out, and we'll get you on the beta list and you can start playing with it. Thanks a lot.